So worldview is the next concept to grasp. And this really is what most people suffer from. A poisoned worldview, as I'll talk about in part 2. See, it's just what it says. It's our view of the world. How we view ourselves in relation to the world, how we view others in relation to ourselves. So, just like the polar energy forces that we talked about in polarity, there's a positive worldview and then there's a negative worldview. So the positive worldview is one that sees ourselves as, yes, an individual, unique expression of individuality, the monad of consciousness, if you will, the individual unit. But it recognizes that we are unique and we're an expression of the whole and we're part of the whole. When that drop is in the whole ocean, there's no separation. It is the same consciousness, it is the same energy, it is the same substance, it's made of the same thing. And we need to see the world more in that holistic sense if we're going to come through these problems that we're facing, that we see in the external world. It's because we see ourselves as fundamentally separate from everyone else. See, it doesn't mean we have to lose our uniqueness. We can still understand that we're completely unique, like a beautiful snowflake, and there's only one like that. You know, it's not to throw away the idea of individuality, because that is of total importance. That is of critical import to understand that each individual is a unique expression of consciousness within the whole. So the value of the individual is infinite, and it must be respected at all times. But it's not to say that the individual shouldn't also understand that they are part of a living system. See, we belong to the whole system of the earth, the whole complex that is this living, breathing planet. We can't separate ourselves from our environment, from our ecosystem. We belong to it. We are part of it. And human nature, you know, this is really what worldview really gets down to. How do we see human nature? Do we think of human nature as fundamentally flawed? Do we think of it as fundamentally evil or vile? You know, I think this is what human nature really looks like once all the external tapestries are stripped away and all the non-essentials are stripped away. Human nature is fundamentally good, not fundamentally evil or flawed. That's a poisoned worldview. If we're to heal the problems within ourselves and in our social structure, we need to recognize human nature for what it is. It's good. It's all the conditioning and the mind control factors that go into poisoning a person through information that they take in over the course of their lives that makes them do the things that they do, the harmful things that they do. It isn't that that's human nature. And we need to really be focused on working toward true freedom if our worldview is a positive one. And if we really understand what we're here to do and what a positive worldview is really seeking to create, to accomplish. When we take this worldview, this positive, connected worldview, this unified, non-dual worldview, these are the states that emerge. Higher levels of consciousness and awareness, dominion within the self, understanding of our motivations, our desires. And states like this is what emerges, what you see here. Peace, harmony, justice, truth, freedom, order. They can only be created with a positive worldview. The opposite worldview is a negative or a dark worldview, a poisoned worldview as I call it. So it's the worldview that sees that, again, that little drop up there as completely cut off and separate from the whole. This is one big, huge mass of consciousness, but I'm completely separate from it, and I have no relationship to that whole. I'm just a number. I'm one of the faces in a mass of faces, and I can't really affect any change. I'm just a number. I'm powerless. My nature is fundamentally flawed. We come into the world in a state of corruption and sin and, brokenness. And you take this worldview, your life will become a reflection of that worldview. Your consciousness will slowly begin to shut down until you're in a state that resembles sleep or hypnosis. And you will have all kinds of susceptibility to techniques of mind control, which I'll be talking about. And when we take this negative worldview, then we want to lash out against everyone else. We're cut off. We're separate from everybody else. We're in a state of internal confusion because our consciousness is shut down. And then we want control. We want to feel better about ourselves by taking external control over someone else. And all that's doing is ignoring the basic problem. The basic problem that a controller does not know oneself. They don't really understand the modalities of consciousness that are indwelling within them. And because they're in that state of internal confusion, then they seek for external control over others. You're only going to create chaos, suffering, disorder, disharmony, and ultimately enslavement by looking at the world in that way. These are the states that a negative worldview brings into manifestation. A being that is shut down in fear, totally oppressed, or looking to oppress others, like a sorcerer or a big brother type. So that is worldview. The next concept I'm going to introduce is magic versus sorcery. These are very real forces. These are very real energies that are being used all around us at all times in the world. And they're very real, but they're quite different from the Hollywood interpretation or definition. A real magician or sorcerer isn't, casting lightning bolts from his fingertips, but he is using forces at work in the world to create what he wishes to create. And here's the definition of magic. This is what magic actually is in the real world. Magic is a science. It's a science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the will. Now that's a very important term there at the end. Will with a capital W. Okay? Whole books, whole volumes have pretty much been written about what that means. And this does not mean the practitioner's egoic will. My will, my desire, what I want to see happen, what I want to see done. This is the will of the energy of creation. It is the will of love. It is the will of that polar force that wants to create order, the divine intelligence inherent in creation, in the energy of creation. Now, you can call that whatever you want. I have no problem calling that God. I have no problem calling that the divine. This is the divine will. But you could think of it however you wish to think of it. So that's what magic is. The science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the will, capital W, the divine will. Let thy will be done, not my egoic will. Okay? Magic's goal is the state of non-dualism. We talked about this before. This is the state of dominion, the state of not being able to be torn apart internally. This is the state of as you think, so you feel, and so you act. You are non-dual. You are one within. Your three aspects of your consciousness are one and cannot be torn apart. As you think, so you feel, so you act. That is magic's goal. A true magician is trying to bring the state of non-dualism into being, not only within himself, but with anyone else that he may have the ability to influence and inspire. And the process of this, of a magician's process to create the state of non-dualism is known as alchemy. And alchemy is not this medieval concept of turning actual metals, base metals, into gold. This is an allegory. This is a symbolic allegory of helping to raise base consciousness into solar consciousness, into divine consciousness. Non-dual consciousness, harmonic with the resonant energy of love, of order, of a unified brain, the unified male and female energies. So that's what an alchemist is really trying to do. He is attempting to inspire others and be an influence for them to raise their consciousness up to a higher level. That's what the process of alchemy is. And that's a magician's vehicle for doing his work to accomplish non-dualism. The opposite of magic is sorcery. And as you see here, the definition is almost identical. Sorcery is the science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the will. And you'll notice that the will is no longer capitalized, lowercase w, okay, because this form of will is not the capital W will. It is not the divine energy. It is not the divine aspect of creation, the divine will. This is the sorcerer's own egoic desires, what I want to accomplish for my ends. Let not thy will be done, let my will be done. So sorcery also has a goal. And what it is trying to create and bring into the world is the state of opposition. Opposition is the state when polar forces are at war with each other and there is struggle, there is conflict, there is suffering, there is chaos. Moreover, it means that sorcery wants to create, and a sorcerer wishes to create an opposition within an individual. This is the opposition that takes place within us. We aren't unified in the way we think, feel, and act. We may think a certain way or feel a certain way about something, and yet we do something that's in opposition to that. So we're torn apart from within. The three aspects of our consciousness are not unified as one. They are torn apart. So in that aspect, the person is in internal opposition, or they are crucified within themselves. It can be seen as. And the actual methodologies that are used to accomplish this state of opposition, both within an individual and in the external world, is the sorcerer's tools of illusion and manipulation. It is getting people to believe in something that simply is not real and that does not serve their interest in the world, does not serve who we are and how we are really meant to live. And it creates disharmony and strife and suffering in the world. They want to try to get people to believe that way because it may benefit them. Even though it doesn't benefit the whole, it may benefit them so that they profit and they come out on top and everyone else suffers. That's what a sorcerer is really trying to do. And they use illusion and manipulation, playing people off against each other, manipulating them, getting them to see things that they want them to, in a way that they want them to see it, getting them to believe in things that aren't real, don't serve them, and yet then people develop an attachment to it. And that's really what creates all suffering. So that's what magic and sorcery is really about as they are used in the real world. So the